Welcome to The Know. I'm Ashley.
I'm Gus.
I'm Mika.
And the end of 2017 is upon us. This was a serious year of gaming for the ages. I don't think that's too much hyperbole. Maybe a little bit, but you know what? No. You know what? Yes, some of the most talked about stories over the past few months have been things like loot boxes and games delayed into next year and everything. But 2017 also brought us some genre-defining entries across the board.
Some would even say 2017 is one of the best years of gaming in the industry in a while. Your mileage on that, of course, may vary, but it's hard to deny this was a year filled with many high points.
So we wanted to take a little bit of time to celebrate some of those great games and reflect on what we love to play the most over this past year. Naturally, we won't be able to talk about every game we've ever played this year or, all the best rated ones. That would be a 80-minute video at least.
We only have so much time on the memory card for the camera.
Exactly. But we did want to chat about some of the most critically acclaimed games that we did get to spend a little bit of time with.
Yeah, I gotta recognize some of the good ones.
Yeah.
There really were some great games out this year.
Yeah.
First up, the highest rated game of the year and one of the highest rated games of all time, much to the disappointment of some gamers, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now that the dust has settled, it's been out for several months, all the scores have really leveled off. It's landed with a 97 on Metacritic and a 96 on OpenCritic.
I think that's okay. That's an okay
That's
score.
an alright,
I think it's
They did okay.
Playable.
It's gonna be fine.
They're going to make it. It certainly took a while for us to finally play the game that was announced ages ago, but Nintendo more than delivered with Breath of the Wild.
It was worth the wait.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. It's cliche to say it, but in many ways, Breath of the Wild took the series back to its roots, putting an emphasis on player freedom, discovery, and just having a damn good time in Hyrule.
I remember the first time I got my hands on Breath of the Wild was E3 for Breath of the Wild, and they had this huge display for it,
the castle that had the day-night
cycle. Yeah, and it had
impressive.
the food pot that bounced around, and you heard Zelda come up over the loudspeaker as she entered you into the forest, and tears started streaming down my face, and then
That's like a common theme with you.
oh, it is. And then we got Breath of the Wild here early. I held it and I cried, and then the first time I booted it up, I cried, and that's just my definition of Breath of the Wild is just Mika crying.
Tear Simulator 2017.
It was such a good game, and it redefined Zelda for me.
Even stuff that should have been annoying, like the song that played every time you cooked, that was amazing. I never wanted to skip it.
I bounced
Except
in my seat.
I always got really excited when you'd get the extra music that comes with a critical cook.
Yeah.
And you get an extra good thing out of it.
Yeah.
I loved hearing that come up. I was like, ooh,
And
did great.
That's such a definition of how great this game was, that I liked cooking in the game.
Yeah.
Who says that? That's such a small little thing. Everything, and I never fast traveled. I ran and I climbed and I took my horse everywhere. It was just an enjoyable
And I think
game.
that's actually one of the best parts of the game was that if you saw something, you could get over. You could climb it. Could go you go anywhere. I mean, of course, climbing you had your stamina meter, which you had to upgrade over time. But if you saw something, you're oh, I'm just gonna go up there. It was awesome.
Yeah, and are there games out there like that? I'm gonna climb that mountain. That mountain right there. I bet you I could climb it.
I mean, if you're in Skyrim and you have a horse, you can do it.
Fair.
The game's not totally flawless. A lot of people had issues with the weapon durability.
I forgot about
if they
that,
had at least tweaked that upward. But on the flip side of that, as a result of weapons breaking, I was constantly picking up and trying new weapons and having to change my combat style to account for what I actually had with me. So it did, in a way, force me to be more flexible than just, hey, pick up a lance. Great. Now that's all you play with for the rest of the game, because I like the reach and I like the speed.
Right, exactly. And it makes things like Eventide Island so interesting. And that's such a new mechanic that we've never really seen before. Guess what? You get nothing, and you start all over again, and it's going to be a fun time, but it's also going to suck, but you're going to enjoy it. And I don't know. Breath of the Wild is just...
Dropped onto an island with nothing, having to scavenge things to survive. I think we're going to get to that a little later.
We will.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Huh.
All right. But next up, another ridiculously high-rated Nintendo game. The next entry and another one of their storied franchise.
One of their many
Yes.
storied franchises.
Surprise, surprise, it's Super Mario Odyssey. It launched in October to the tune of a 97 on Metacritic and a 97 on OpenCritic. Once
It's
again,
there's a trend
playable.
here.
Yeah.
Making it the highest-rated Mario game we've had since Super Mario Galaxy. So, playable.
Playable.
At least.
It's playable.
Yeah.
Similar to Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey puts players on the loose in and around all kinds of different locations with an extra emphasis on discovering all of those moons, 999 moons, for yourself. You add that to some charming story bits, some pretty difficult endgame challenges, and sections that are meant to just tug on your nostalgia bone, like when you go into the 2D areas. What, do you not refer to it as a nostalgia bone?
That just sounds dirty.
Awkward. Super Mario Odyssey, with all of that stuff, it does stand as one of the year's best and most polished experiences, and also really key to being a Nintendo title, it released fully polished.
It's so polished. Yeah.
Oh, it was smooth, it was pretty, and the sound design was great, the music was great. Spoilers, if you haven't played Super Mario Odyssey, I guess, the festival in New Donk City, that got me. That song was beautiful. The 2D sections were beautiful. Also, you can pet Nintendogs, so.
And they find stuff for you.
It's got that above. It's got that above Zelda, doesn't it?
It does. You can interact with dogs.
At least one of the marks. One of the reasons Zelda didn't get a full 100. Can't pet the dogs.
Can't pet the dogs.
Yeah.
Also, I love how anytime you jumped into 2D, no matter what costume you had on, there were sprites for that. It's like no matter what you did, it's always like there was a representation of that on the 2D side as well.
I really liked in this edition of Mario that it didn't feel like just another Mario game. A lot of Nintendo skeptics feel like Nintendo tends to just iterate. They just do the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Right.
But one thing that I like about what Nintendo does with Mario and what they did with this title is they take the formula that works really well for them and then they add on extra. They do something new each time. And sometimes that's frustrating because, hey, maybe they're not going to make another Mario Kart Double Dash because they say, well, we've done that. But I do like that every time there's something new. And I feel like the hats in this and that you could buy the different outfits and that would change how some of the characters interacted with you. It really changed some of the really big ways the game plays out. And I really dug it.
Yeah. And I thought that I was going to hate using Joy-Con motion controls for it, but I played the game exclusively that way.
You played it split?
Yeah. The way it's meant to be played.
A really silly thing that I love about Super Mario Odyssey, keeping its roots, was that every boss fight still had the rule of 3. And that, for some, whenever I know that that's a thing, it just, brings me back to my childhood. You know that you can kill the boss if you hit it 3 times, and,
You know when you're just one away.
Exactly. Yeah. And in a particular Bowser fight, I remember the third mode was the hardest, the third level of it, and it just, I don't know, there's just something about keeping that classic Nintendo rule of 3 in a 2017 game that I'm like, oh.
It was classic. It's timeless.
It's timeless, exactly.
With so many games borrowing RPG mechanics but only taking them surface level, it's not too often we get to experience actual hardcore, again, it's kind of dirty, hardcore single-player RPGs these days. Fortunately, Divinity Original Sin 2 brought us back to those glorious days with its PC release this year.
It hacked, slashed, and magic missiled its way into a 93 on Metacritic. Once again,
but did a lightning bolt.
See, magic missile sounds dirty, and now I'm just thinking everything's dirty. Thank you, Gus. And it also got a 94 on OpenCritic, making it one of the best-rated games of its kind since, interestingly enough, Baldur's Gate 2. Original Sin 2 rewards creativity, really puts your brain to the test. It gives you hundreds of hours of RPG content to really sink your teeth into, and the sprites look really cute.
Yeah. This was a game that when it came out, I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. I played a little bit of Divinity Original Sin. I fell off it pretty quick. It isn't the kind of game that holds your hand, and if you have any reason to get distracted during the early portions before you really settle in with it, it's easy to fall off. I think. And I think the same thing applies to Divinity Original Sin 2, but they did tweak a lot of it, so it at least takes you through a mini segment, a mini quest at the very opening to acquaint you with the way everything works. And so the intimidation curve is a little bit lower, and I really liked that, but that once I got through it, I was absolutely floored by the level of detail. That I needed to talk to different characters as different characters because some of them are super racist. Or every character in your party has these different skills, and if you don't utilize them, you might miss something. And I thought that was stellar. The co-op is a lot of fun.
That's what I was going to talk about.
As an asshole, didn't you pickpocket everybody or something? Or was that Adam?
I mean,
That was
Let's
of course it was
not
good.
go.
did.
I don't know. I think
All right.
using the
You
word
did.
asshole is a little judgmental. I think I was doing what was best for the party, despite what they may have thought.
By
You were
taking
holding their
everything
items for
away
them.
from them. Yes.
Right, they
I
weren't using
understand.
them to their fullest effect.
Understandable.
So you repurposed them. But I thought the co-op was great. Being able to play with other people and steal from them, borrow from them was a cool mechanic.
And there's just so much cool, weird stuff in there. It's a stunning world. It's so detailed. It's worth getting through the intimidation, for sure.
Awesome.
And speaking of RPGs, another all-time great out of the genre this year came in the form of none other than Persona 5.
Yes, game of the
It's
year.
Our Lord and Savior Persona. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but if have you met Persona?
Have you met Persona 5?
You may not have known you wanted to spend your gaming hours pretending to be a magical Japanese schoolboy. I didn't before I played it, but Persona 5 really knows how to give you your heart's desires, all while clocking it at a 93 on Metacritic and a 94 on OpenCritic.
And if you don't like it, it'll just change your heart. Bum.
Hey!
God, I love
don't
Persona
get that.
so much.
I missed Persona 5, so I don't get that
It's
one.
one of the
Oh.
major themes. Well, you're not a huge JRPG
No.
player, right?
It's definitely the epitome of a JRPG. Like, it's, you walk around and, like, have to balance going to school and, like, going to the arcade, and do you want to go take eating a burger challenge? Do you want to go get, like, sushi with your bros?
Burgers and sushi.
It very much splits that like life simulator, almost visual novel side of the game, and then the classic turn-based, party-based JRPG combat on the other side.
With, like, awesome power-ups and really cool costumes and great music.
And unique worlds.
Yes.
I love what they did with the palaces this time around. This was my first time playing a Persona game. So
same,
it may
same.
have hit me harder than it did people who've played previous games in the series who knew what was coming. I did not know what was
You
coming.
mean you never saw it coming?
Yes.
Yes.
So once I dropped into that world, I spent the first half hour to an hour maybe thinking, I don't know what the fuck is going on, and it's moving a little bit slowly, but then you just find that you can lose hours and hours and hours of your life to this game and not be remotely sorry about it. It's a great soundtrack. The graphics are awesome. I love the characters.
Oh, the characters are, and like the character building and friendship forming and the confidant system, and even going in and like actually morphing your personas. I found myself not even wanting to look at a guide because I just loved the surprises of like what was coming next. And when you end up crafting a dick in a chariot, you're like, all right,
This is where we're at
I'm
now.
gonna roll with it. I'm here.
So is the
Gus
dick.
is like, what is
That
happening?
definitely sounded
The
dirty.
giant chariot dick is also gonna roll with it.
He also is in his chariot, and I don't know. There's just like something about the. I mean, I looked at my save file the other day. I clocked 90 plus hours into this game.
I passed 130.
See, and it doesn't feel like it's that much. I still want to do a new game plus and just do a confidant run, so I can get to know everybody at the highest level and really delve into everyone's stories. And it's just also play it on the Japanese voice pack.
It's a great game. If you like turn-based JRPGs, you'll dig it. If you don't like those, you're probably not going to like it, and
No.
that's fine too.
That's totally fine.
I like
but
turn-based stuff, so maybe I'll give it a shot.
It's great at what it does.
It is. Also, the cutscenes are anime.
Fair play. Well, moving on. Every year we see loads of open world games, but Horizon Zero Dawn stood out from the pack with a stellar story and stunning visuals.
Even though it was a brand new IP from a studio who had previously done first-person shooters, it still reviewed super well at an 88 on Metacritic and an 89 on OpenCritic.
Should have rated higher, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And it pulled some major weight in the sales department too, which hopefully means we'll see some more Horizon Zero Dawn in the future. We already have the DLC, maybe Horizon Zero Dawn 2.
Yeah, I think that this game, I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. The trailers that we had seen before and the gameplay we'd seen before was really great, but I had this skepticism. I was holding back a little bit on it because the developers had never done a game like this before, and I worried that somehow it would fall short if I just let my expectations free.
Right.
And the trailers were, I mean, I didn't pay too much attention to them. It was like, robot dinosaurs in the future, what the hell's going on? It seemed dumb to me at the time, but this is maybe the only game where I tried to find every bit of audio log, like every bit of story. I wanted to fully explore the world and know everything that happened. It was so immersive and such a great story.
That's a testament to a game when you are actively seeking collectibles rather than just to get an achievement, but to learn the story, then that means it's a good game.
It's also the only PlayStation game I ever platinumed.
Really?
I went out of my way to platinum.
Wow.
So this gets like the Gus Sorolla stamp of approval,
The-
which does not come easy.
2 thumbs up. Great game. I think it's worth it to own a PS4 just for Horizon Zero Dawn.
Wow, that is...
Eddie bought a PS4 Pro so that he could play it in HDR. And it looks absolutely stunning. They did a great job establishing a new world, a new IP, and it didn't feel like a first draft of something that could then be, when they put out a sequel, perfected. It felt like an absolute masterpiece just on its own. I mean, it suffered one or two things, which is that it came out right near Zelda.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it could be a little frustrating to switch between the two and suddenly not be able to climb absolutely everything.
The jump buttons were switched.
Also the
Right,
jump
right, right.
buttons.
So that fucked me up for a while. And then not being able to climb over everything was my big gripe. Because I played Zelda first, could climb everything, then in Horizon Zero Dawn I was like, oh, I can't
Do
jump
that,
up there.
yeah.
Yeah. But overall, great game. Absolutely spectacular PlayStation exclusive.
I had some small gripes with the inventory system and the way you equip weapons and have to switch between them. I thought that was a little clunky. Hopefully I'll get that stuff straightened out.
But you platinumed it.
Yeah, I did. I platinumed it.
Nothing to stop you.
It was not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination.
If you hadn't gotten the message yet, 2017 was an especially great year for RPGs, and one of the early action RPGs we got was none other than Nier Automata Butt Simulator.
Such
Not
a
actually
great
the title.
game. Yeah, no starfish, but there is a butt. Thanks to its unique atmosphere and story. Plus, it had really engaging combat, beautiful presentation. Nier Automata found a place in the hearts of gamers and critics alike. It got an 88 on Metacritic, an 89 on OpenCritic, and it took Soundtrack of the Year at the Game Awards. And also, come on, 2B cosplays.
But
Yeah, I felt like this game suffered a little bit in that it wasn't as high profile as the games coming out right around its time. It came out very early in the year. We had Horizon around the same time. We had Zelda around the same time. And if people
Persona came out around then too.
Persona was early in the year. So if people were looking for an RPG or an open world game to play, there were all these options. And as a result of Yoko Taro's work, sometimes feeling a little bit more niche because it's very philosophical. It can get super weird,
Super dark.
super dark. I think some people may have missed it. So if you're trying to go through and clear out a backlog, play some of the games that you missed throughout the year. I think Nier Automata is a really good one to pick up.
I actually just picked it up today.
Really?
Yeah,
Yay!
I'm gonna hopefully start
Welcome.
that here pretty soon.
Yeah, and also this game has a lot of really cool introspection on what it is to be human.
Yes.
And and I think that it just has a lot to say about that. It's a beautiful experience to go through. Highly recommend it.
Bring a tissue box just in case it gets a little bit.
I'll have one handy.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not that kind of tissue.
I was not thinking that. You're the one who turned that one dirty.
All right, so hey, what's not to love about shooting some Nazis? Just to change that
Little
up a
segue
little
there.
bit. Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, that continued the first game's brand of super weird alt history wackiness, except then it went bigger guns, more explosions, lots of new ways to brutalize some of history's greatest monsters. So pretty much all improvements across the board.
And Commandant's Strawberry Milkshake.
Oh, why not?
Scoring an 88 on Metacritic and an 87 on OpenCritic, the new Colossus is one of those sequels that knows how to amp everything up, yet still found the time for an engrossing story with well fleshed out characters.
I really enjoyed that the developers pulled no punches on this one. Is when everyone started getting upset that Nazis were politicized, that Bethesda leaned into that because they weren't gonna water it down. And the second you see the opening sequence of the game, it's intense. But the gameplay is really polished. I really love the design. The graphics are spectacular. It's everything that was great about Wolfenstein, but more better.
Just turned up to 11.
Yeah. Oh, it turned up to 2.
Sadly, this is one that I picked up that I haven't gotten to yet, but it's in that cycle. I have so many great games that came out this year.
Well, this
that
is
I'm
a
still
good
trying
time
to
of
work
the
my way
year
to
to
get
do
to it.
that. It's like we are going to take some time off of work. We're going to have like a week and a half, 2 weeks to just relax
I'm gonna
a
put
little
my
bit.
headphones on and just tune out the world and shoot some Nazis.
I was going to say, holiday time, jingle bells, killing Nazis.
So great. It's what Christmas is all about.
Hell yeah.
And you no doubt had a love-hate relationship with the next entry in our list of favorite games of 2017. Cuphead knew how to make you feel two things at once.
Oh.
The 2D action platformer had shades of the past that we forgot we loved, while also looking beautiful thanks to its classic cartoon art style.
Obviously, some were going to feel more strongly about this game than others, but with an 88 on both Metacritic and OpenCritic and more than 2 million copies sold across Xbox One and PC, it seems it charmed its way into just about everyone's hearts before shattering them to pieces.
The game was way more difficult than I expected.
I did one thing straight up that made the game much easier to deal with.
You threw it out a window.
Okay, I did two things. I threw it out a window, and then I remapped the shoot button to
smart.
a trigger, to the right trigger. And then that way, because by default it's mapped to the X button, and so you have to stop shooting to perform other actions. And that's silly. There's no reason to stop shooting anything at any time in Cuphead.
Right.
So I remapped that, could just hold that down, run through the levels, do whatever I was doing, and it got easier. It didn't get easy.
Easier.
At no point did it get easy, but it got easier. However, at every point, every death, I knew why I died, and I knew that it was my fault.
Yep.
And
I think that's what makes
one of
it
the
painful.
hard things about the game.
You can't curse the game and throw the controller and be like, this is just some wonky controls. It's like,
just-
no, I know I fucked up there.
Or it's just cheating.
Yep.
You know what it's doing. It tells you everything.
Yep.
A lot of it is memorizing the patterns.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so you are expected to go through repeatedly, and that's totally fine. But every death is your own fault.
In a way, a lot of the boss fights reminded me of raiding in World of Warcraft. Where, like, when you're hitting a boss for the first time, you're like, I know I'm not going to survive this. I just want to see the different phases of this fight. And then every time there's a new phase, I'm going to learn how to adapt, and I'm going to learn what I need to do
Every
in this
death is
phase of the
intel.
fight. Right. And
Yeah.
like, you got to go through a couple of times to really figure it out.
I think that just the overall art style and music of it, like, I'm a sucker for old-timey things. Like, I listen to Frank Sinatra for funsies. I'm that kind of weird person. But, like, seeing that old, like, I guess Hanna-Barbera is the correct term.
not even, no.
Not
No,
even, no.
like,
Like,
even it's-
way
Even
past.
older,
Yeah, we're
like,
talking-
Steamboat Willie-ish.
Yeah, this is 30s animation.
Yeah.
They do rotoscoping and everything.
Exactly. Like, going, like, all the way back to just that old, awesome feeling with the same music. I was just like, oh, I want a record player. And they have the Cuphead album on a record that you can buy, and that's so cool to me. And I don't know, I like old things.
Yeah,
and
but
so it charmed its way through my heart at the same time as wanting to just scream because it's just so hard.
it was a great juxtaposition that it looked so innocent and it looked so lovely and it looked so charming and inviting, and then it just threw these crazy
It
challenges at
brutalizes you.
It does.
Have
yeah.
you just listened to the album, because the singing is also really good?
It
on
is
it.
very, very, very good.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there were many, many, many more games that were released in 2017. That's just a sampling of some of the highest rated favorites. There are some honorable mentions that we could maybe talk about some more. I think Gus in particular has one.
He brought up step one.
Yeah, we got to talk about PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which...
It's hard to have a best game of the year discussion without talking about that, even though it only technically launched this month in December. Still,
it counts. It's 2017.
It launched on December 20th at 11 p.m. Pacific time. They really were cutting it close at the last second. I mean, this is a game that took everyone by storm. I mean, it's the highest played, or the most concurrent players on Steam.
The fact that it managed to unseat Valve's own games, that it managed to unseat Dota and Team Fortress and Counter-Strike and just shoot to the top of the list of concurrents, and then make them all look bad by comparison because it just kept growing
I felt like
growing.
Every week it was another headline of how many millions of copies it had sold.
It swept The Office.
And managing to do all of that with one map and one mode.
Yeah. A second, there was a second mode they introduced partway through the year, zombie mode, but you can only do that in custom servers. And the second map came very, very late in the year, which has kind of revitalized the game a bit. But it's absolutely amazing. It's not a super polished game. It's not a super new idea. It's ugly. It's got a lot of rough corners. It's going to punch you in the face repeatedly.
Or hit you with a frying pan.
Yeah, it's just really fun. I think when I first started playing, I probably played 60 hours before I finally won a chicken dinner for the first time. But
we're very proud of it.
It's so satisfying when it finally happens, because it's like it's analogous to Cuphead in a way, where it's like you've learned and you learn and you learn, and then eventually you get it right. Except it takes way longer. But yeah, it's an absolutely great game, and I love it.
I also honorable mention to Stardew Valley. The game itself came out initially on PC last year. It's hit most of the consoles, but this year it also came for Nintendo Switch, which brought me back into it. I feel like that's a wonderful platform for that kind of game.
Absolutely.
It's a very relaxing, chilled out experience where you decide how you want to run your farm. If you want to abandon it and go off and fight monsters in the caves, you can totally do that. If you just want to spend all your time
I've never done
fishing,
that. I've never even thought about doing that. Stardew Valley is a game that I tried to get into a couple of times and I couldn't do it. And then finally one of my playthroughs, it just clicked. And I was like, this game is amazing.
I'm on year 3 on my Switch playthrough right now.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. If you like a game that will drive you through a story, you're not going to get that. This is very much a game about relaxing. You go through these gameplay loops about 15 minutes at a time, and you would be surprised how many hours can pass you by as you just slowly grow your farm and you see, or get through the mines, whatever it is you want to do, and you see that progress. You see your story take place. So that's my big honorable mention.
I'm going to also kind of cheat a little bit with my honorable mention. Final Fantasy 15 came out last year, but all the 3 DLCs for the rest of the Choco Bros came out this year. And I was really skeptical when I first heard, like, oh, story DLCs. I'm like, oh, are you making up for that stupid Chapter 13? Like, fuck you. But they really...
Wow, you're really combative.
Yeah, they delved into each... character. Gladios came first. It was mostly about literally picking up pillars and hitting stuff with it.
Sounds like
Gladios.
Yeah, he was proving how strong he was, but it was also about like his emotional ties to why he has to be the strongest. Promptos was like he didn't have a family or friends, but he got smacked around and told like you're worth it. Ignis is painful, very painful, but it was good story. You got to play as everybody, which you didn't get to do. You only get to play as Noctis in 15, and we've been promised that Arden's gonna have his own story. They're teasing that Luna's gonna get her own story pack. So it was. I put the game down after 115 hours in it, and I came back to it. So that's impressive.
That is impressive.
So I don't know, that was my honorable mention is more Final Fantasy 15, more of my Choco Bros.
I'll get back to it once they have the Cup Noodle DLC.
They actually have that.
Oh, God.
Noctis has a Cup Noodle hat, so suck it, Gus.
Well, there you go.
Well, there you go. Gus is back into it. All right, so that about does it for our take on the best games of 2017. What do you think of this year of games? What were your favorite games? What games do you think need more attention? Please let us know in the comments.
And for more coverage about all the best games of 2018, remember to like this video. And if you're new around here, subscribe to The Know.
Bye!
Few dare trespass here. Those that do seek the glory of the hunt, to challenge themselves